Hey there, viewers. I thought it was time I reviewed my Harbor Freight tire equipment, as I've had this mounting apparatus for quite a while now, and it's working out well. And then I more recently got their balancer here, and it also seems to work well. I think it's fairly obvious this is not super heavy duty. It's not going to work well for very large tires, but for my trucks and cars and trailers, if you get a lot of that stuff, it sure beats driving to the tire place all the time and waiting for their schedule. If you're willing to put a little work into it, which I find a lot more satisfying than waiting around in a tire. So there are a couple of shortcomings on this thing out of the box, but they're easily remedied. Firstly, the base bolts together, and of course if you weld it, it will be much more rigid. The washer piece they give you to hold down the tire, garbage. So you make your own stuff. Here's a Festiva rotor and just a piece of steel, and I'll give a demonstration. Now, this tire had an encounter with a large bolt in the road. It's quite a shame, given the tread left on this thing. It's got to come off. So the first part here is the bead breaker. Place your tire there where the rim locks into this triangular piece down here. Of course, first you'll remove the valve core with one of these cheap little tools here, available at auto parts stores everywhere. Just unscrew that so you get no opposition from the air pressure. You get your multi-purpose lever that comes with the tool. And press down until it breaks. Rotate 180 degrees and do it again. Flip it over and do the same. And they make a set of pliers just for removing these weights. The properly adjusted set of vice grips works well too. Then mount the tire on the upper part by aligning this little rod below with the lug holes. Bring in your homemade washers and screw on the top bit and tighten with the lever. Now, to ease removal and installation, they do sell a lubricant for that purpose. I like to just use a spray bottle of soapy water, but you want to be careful not to overdo that, as you don't want to put a bunch of moisture inside your tire. And what does not come with this tool, you'll want to get one or two of these tire tools to help hold your position here as you lean into it and rotate around. And reposition this lever. There we go. And it all depends on how old and stiff the tire is. Sometimes they come right off. This one isn't being too bad. There it goes. And of course, I'm doing a little damage there. You could be more careful, but I don't care about this tire anymore, as it has irreparable damage. There with the first side loose. Do a similar thing with the other side. It's a little more difficult to get started. And that's where sometimes the other tool is more useful. There we go. And off it comes. You then want to make sure that your rim is clean and free of bumpy rust. This one is pretty good, but for that sort of thing, it's nice to keep around a nice old one-speed drill with a wire brush in it. This is also handy for roughing up the inside of a tire to do a patch. Of course, at the tire shop, they like to change the valve stems every time, and I don't blame them. But when you're in your shop, you can inspect the thing to see that it's not all cracked, and these really don't need to be changed that often generally. The other big thing that these tools give you is the opportunity to do your research and choose exactly the tire that you want, rather than relying on the tire shop's stock or what they feel like ordering. Which is especially handy when you're, say, using old Nissan trucks, 14-inch wheels to do heavy work, and you want to get some nice 8-ply tires. When it comes to the mounting, new tires are much more pliable than anything that's been on the rim for any length of time. Just put a small amount of soapy water around the outside portion of it. And then work it on there, taking a small bite at a time. If it's putting up too much of a fight, you're likely to damage the tire. There we go. I keep my knee on it there to hold the position at the other end. Sorry, camera. Now here, the thing to watch out for, this thing's trying to seat in its seating area already, and that doesn't give you enough flexibility to finish the job. You need to keep this, the bead of the tire, pressed down into the recess so that you don't have to stretch it so much to get the rest of the bead on. Whoa there. There we go. there it is. Now, when seating this thing, much of the time, this thing may already have contact with the bead here, but much of the time, the bead of the tire is not contacting the bead area of the rim, and so there will be tremendous air leakage. And so the way to get a lot of air in it quickly, or easiest way that many of you may already have lying around, the blowgun with the rubber nozzle on the end with the valve core still removed. Just hold it tightly against there to get a large volume of air in quickly, while you manipulate the tire around to get it to seal, though it appears not to be necessary on this one, due to it being kind of short and wide in its proportions. And there's both beads. And you may reinstall the valve core, which just screws back in. Proceed to inflate the tire to its working pressure. Then the other purpose of the soapy water, to check for leaks. And there are no leaks on this side. So let's clean that off. We may proceed to the balancing. And this is just a really nice level, basically, on a very small pivot point with little resistance here. You just place this thing on the floor and get it level. The vial has some adjusting screws here, and then it automatically centers the tire with that mechanism, like so. And now it has very little resistance, but it is not non-existent, so you just give it a gentle spin and a rock and let it settle and see where it is. And hopefully you can see there that it is leaning just slightly. The bubble is just a bit that way, so we need some weight on that side. Over here. Got a couple of different weights here. You can just use different combinations as necessary. So I'll just try a 3/4. And you can just place them where they will go before committing to hammering them on. And give it another slight jostle and see how it settles. And that is so very close to centered, it would be nearly impossible to do any. So, keeping track of that location, remove it from the balancer first, so not to be pounding on things on the balancer, this sensitive instrument. And there it is. That should do it. I just did a couple like this on the front end of the Hyundai, and it's perfectly smooth on the interstate. Now, this may not be an adequate balancer for extremely large or wide tires, especially where it's very important that you balance both sides of the rim. But on tires like these, it works wonderfully. Like I say, at the price of these things, if you have several vehicles and maybe a couple of trailers, it sure is nice to be able to decide for yourself when you will deal with your tire mountings and repairs. So if you've got any questions about either of these or anything else in the shop here, feel free to post them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.